Tom Brady would know how to do that.
Tom Brady's definitely a guy who never looks pale. He's either going to the tanning bed or he's doing something natural that makes him never look pale. It helps he lives in Tampa, too.
Yeah, it does. The question is for how much longer? And if he's done in Tampa, is he going somewhere else or is he done as a career? Season 23 ended for him last night. Dak Prescott picked a great time to have a career best night. He was fantastic. And we ended the show yesterday by saying if the game was going to be close, it was going to be ugly. And if it wasn't close, that means the Dallas Cowboys win in a rout. And at 31-14, the game wasn't even that close on the scoreboard, honestly. And, Chad, this is indicative of a bad offensive line, an aging quarterback, yes, but zero run game. And when they get behind, they normally don't catch up against good teams. And Dallas is one of those, especially defensively. The TB12 magic wasn't happening last night. It didn't come close to happening. Meanwhile, the magic was on the opposite sideline because Prescott and company looked great to open the playoffs.
Well, let's say what it was. I mean, Tom Brady was terrible. He was awful in this game. It's not just the offensive line. There's a lot of factors that lead to him being bad, but he was terrible. There were moments this year where he wasn't that bad, but that interception.
Oh, the interception was awful.
Did he just fail to throw it out of the end zone? It looked like he was trying to throw it out of the back of the end zone, knowing no one was open.
That's his first red zone interception.
Like 10 yards too short.
First red zone interception in Tampa.
But you see what I'm saying? Like it looked like a throwaway that he just threw 4 yards short of the end line. It was incredible. I've never seen anything like that, especially from a quarterback of his skill level. I mean, the big question now is what should he do? What will he do? What are the ramifications for Brady if he comes back to Tampa? Does he want to work with Todd Bowles? Does he not? What does a loss like this mean for Todd Bowles? And on the flip side, Dak Prescott was fantastic. Not what I was expecting. We knew he was capable of it, but if we had to bet on what was going to happen, because we've seen it time and time again, it was Brady's going to have a special performance. Dak Prescott will make a couple mistakes to keep Tampa in it, and he was mistake-free.
So he sets the Dallas single-game postseason record, 5 total touchdowns, 4 passing, 1 rushing. And the combination of Dalton Schultz, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup came together last night. Now, the first 2 drives where both teams failed to even pick up a first down, that soon ended because the following 4 possessions after the first 2 by Prescott and company ends with the 80-yard drive, another 80-yard touchdown drive, 91 yards and 86 yards. And at one point, he completed 11 consecutive passes to Dallas wideouts and running backs. This is the team that can go on the road and win in San Francisco. They've got to have the same consistency. The key last night, too, for a team that was the most penalized group last year, Mike McCarthy's team was, for the most part, disciplined last night, and it showed. And they took care of an opponent that was not nearly up to their level or quality. And this weekend, we get a chance to see them on an even playing ground against a team that's very capable of getting after Prescott and defending his pass. So will they rely more on the run? Maybe. I think they have to reach Glendale. But they won their first game on the road in the playoffs in 3 decades last night. And it came because of their franchise quarterback playing like a franchise quarterback.
Yeah, and I also thought that defensively they were just really good at confusing Brady post-snap. And that's to me what's to watch now as we go later in the week and we start to preview these divisional matchups. If they were able to do that to Tom Brady, granted, much weaker supporting cast, especially given the offensive line, than San Fran, what will they be able to do to Brock Purdy in terms of confusion post-snap? That's what I'm watching in this game if the Cowboys are able to pull off the upset in Santa Clara against the 49ers. Just a really, really good performance from the Cowboys. Brady's going to be the big talking point. Is he done? Is he not? I don't think he is. I also don't think he's going to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer moving forward. But the biggest takeaway really is Dak Prescott delivered finally in a big moment in the playoffs. Mike McCarthy's safe. I feel safe in saying those 2 things.
Yep, and I'm eager to see what happens now with Brady contractually because he has a contract that voids March 15th, the first day of the new league year for NFL purposes. The problem with that is when it voids, the Bucs will have the second largest cap hit in the history of quarterbacks whenever that takes place. It'll be around $45 million. And the cap hit on Matt Ryan this past year in Atlanta is number one in the history of teams that will just eat the space and just move on. What's most likely to happen if Brady wants to play again is he restructures the contract and they're able to trade that to another team of his choosing, right? And then he helps out the cap. They have constantly restructured his deal. They can do it again and kick the can down the road and spread it out over several years. But if they just release him or let it void, they're already second going into the offseason, the second worst cap space of any team in the league, second to New Orleans. So they've got to do something with the money if he's not returning to Tampa.
I think just from the ability to win it all standpoint, Tampa's very compelling for a number of reasons. If you really believe that it's just injury decimation across the offensive line, and then throughout the year losing pass rusher, losing wide receiver, different key spots to injury, and those guys get healthy, you get a little bit younger maybe at left tackle or one of the tackle spots.
And a running back.
In the draft, you got to help the running game, which was dead last in the NFL. But if you do those things and get this roster back who's under contract healthy, you're still in a very weak division.
Yeah.
And you like the organization by all accounts. I think Brady does. Had nothing but good
He
things
loves
to
the
say
Glazers.
about him. He likes the locker room.
Mm-hmm.
He likes the guys that he's playing with right now. So if you buy into that, then it sounds like a no-brainer that if Brady wants to keep playing, he just comes back to Tampa, restructures, and you go for it again. You just won the NFC South, and your team was not good with all the injuries. Still won it. Should be better a year from now. Now, I also look at it and say, are we really buying that? That's the question I ask. Are we really just looking at a team that if they get healthy, they're a Super Bowl contender again? Or did something really change this year? If that's the case, I think you're looking at two different teams that appear to be roster secure and ready to move forward with a quarterback who can do something. Raiders, Jets. Those would be the two options in my mind that makes the most sense from where they are at a quarterback standpoint and where they are roster around Brady if he decided he wanted to leave.
Yeah, I think if he leaves, he's going to a team with an offensive line and a run game. Because one thing that he can still play, the one area where the Bucs roster really failed him and the area where he's not the same guy is on the pass attempts. He broke his own record again for most pass attempts in a single season. Not completions, pass attempts. He broke the record for completions as well. He had 490 of those in the regular season. He had 733 pass attempts, most in the league. Brady led that category. More than Justin Herbert, more than Patrick Mahomes, more than Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, who had a great season, Trevor Lawrence, and the list goes on. I mean, if you're thinking of other, Jalen Hurts is 16th in pass attempts. He's an MVP finalist, right? Very balanced.
Yeah.
Brady's got to have an offense more like that he can turn around and rely on a running back to get positive yardage and an offensive line that's going to move the line of scrimmage. He didn't have that. And for an offense that's trying to get the ball out faster than any offense, less than 2 seconds, or you win, this is a mandate to the Bucs if they're going to keep him. O-line and run game have to be a priority moving forward. Byron Leftwich isn't going to be brought back. Sounds like Todd Bowles will. And the big missing piece that's just glaring was Bruce Arians. Although Bruce Arians was in the building all season.
Bruce Arians in the pregame coverage on ESPN, I'm watching the players stretch and go through pregame stuff, and he comes up and gives a big bear hug to Tom Brady and talks to him for a minute before the game. I mean, not just in the building. He's around that team constantly, which was very odd. And for those that think that Brady's definitely done and can't win another Super Bowl, I point to the guy that was calling his game last night on the Manning cast. Peyton Manning was a shell of himself in his final season. He won a Super Bowl. Why? Great defense, great running game, and he was smart and veteran enough to get the ball out quick and get the ball out short and still had that ability after neck fusion and all the injuries he suffered. Brady's in better physical shape than Manning was in his last season. Manning won a Super Bowl that year. So I think Brady could do the same if, and the big if is he gets in the right spot with the right roster and setup around him.
And Chad, now we get the matchup we wanted. I wanted to see Brady win, but the better matchup for next week in San Fran is Dallas. And Dallas, with hitting on all cylinders now, like they did, except for the special teams, Maher missing 4 extra points, can't happen on the road in San Fran like it did in Tampa. But the way that they played and came out ready, the first 2 possessions aside, the way they responded, they didn't let that get into the momentum and rhythm of what they had planned. They can go on the road and win in San Fran. But they're facing a team that's won 11 straight. They're facing a team that can run it. Multiple weapons that the rookie and Purdy can distribute to. We've yet to see Purdy really rattled by any defense. Dallas can do that. And then defensively, the defense that's better than Dallas are the 49ers, led by the defensive player of the year in Bosa against the guy that was the heavy favorite for halfway through the season, Micah Parsons. I'm intrigued by it. McCarthy can win over everyone by going on the road and beating Shanahan. He's back either way.
Yeah, Ken in our YouTube chat says, Tom Brady's the all-time king of checking down throws. Made an entire career out of it because of great scheme. Outside of his 2 years with Randy Moss, he's never thrown the ball down the field. He did some throwing the ball down the field to Mike Evans in his time with Tampa Bay, too. They had illustrations last night of how that started clicking in the final 2 games, where he was misfiring on those deep balls early in his career.
7 rings.
He was doing it later in his career.
7 rings.
Yep.
Yeah, the check downs work. And when you don't have time to even do that, he can go somewhere else and win again.
Again.
I thought in 2019...
I love Peyton Manning more than anything. Peyton Manning, in that final Super Bowl year, it was his teammates that carried him to that Super Bowl championship, and he did what he needed to do. Didn't make the big mistakes, checked down, threw short, threw quick, and that's what it took.
Chad, in Foxborough for his final game as a Patriot, that night leaving Gillette Stadium, it felt like his career was done. Like we had seen the best version of Tom Brady a couple of years prior to that. Following year, he helicopters in all of his teammates during COVID when he couldn't practice to a private park, defying the laws of the National Football League. And then he goes and wins a Super Bowl, first year in Tampa, 3 years in Tampa, 3 consecutive playoff appearances. And now we see his first losing season, and I don't point to Brady as the common denominator in that. I would sign him in a heartbeat if I'm one of these other contenders, especially Vegas. Dolphins, I don't know why they're already pointing to Tua as the answer for next year, especially when they've already lost a draft pick because they were recruiting Brady and Sean Payton last season. I don't know why, if you've already dealt a first round to the league and been removed from this year's draft, why you're not back in on that play. And
Tampa's going to be a strong contender for him too.
Well, but Tampa's got to go through the salary cap issues. There are teams in far better shape that can be set up to win with him next season.
I can't wait to get the legitimate news cycle going on what he's looking at, who's looking at him, so we know the teams, the usual suspects of teams this offseason that could use Tom Brady. But once we start getting legitimate news on, it's going to be fun to talk about that.